Yo, 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 guys. It is Old Man G here and Josh, brought to you live again with our Red Gunners podcast, episode 4. Hopefully everyone is doing well. We are live, we are live, we are live. And there's a lot to talk about. But before we get into it, remember, guys, if you're new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devils. Oh, Josh, is that like a table or something?
I was putting a knife somewhere.
All right, okay, cool, fine. So just the microphone is quite sensitive. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter at WeUnitedX and smash that notification button for latest Manchester United. Apologies for the delay there. But we are good to go. And it's been quite an eventful week, I think, for both clubs, for Manchester United and for Arsenal Football Club. And there is quite a lot to talk about. For those who will be watching live, make sure you get your questions in. And for those who will be watching that not live, get your comments in. What are your thoughts on essentially what we're talking about, which is, are Arsenal back and are United genuine title challenges? We're going to be reviewing this last couple of games. So I'm going to start with, obviously, Arsenal. Are Arsenal back? And this is mostly, obviously, to you, Josh. I think a lot has changed since we last had our episode. A lot. Clearly, I think what was the result? I think it was before the Chelsea result.
Burnley.
Was it Burnley? Was it Burnley?
Oh, Everton. I can't remember. It might have been Everton.
No, it was Everton. Yeah, it was Everton. So lost to Everton away. A lot of disharmony. A lot of talks of backstabbing and what have you, and dressing room unrest, and Arteta out, and blah 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 blah. And then essentially what seemed to happen is that you play Chelsea. A lot of Chelsea fans thought that they were going to dominate, they were going to win, that it was going to be easy, that they were going to relegate Arsenal, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you speak to Arsenal fans, that didn't actually happen. And you beat Arsenal with a convincing win. You played some of the youngsters in Martinelli, in Smith Rowe, and obviously Saka was still playing. And then giving that momentum, you then went on to eventually beat a difficult Brighton team 1-0. Meanwhile, in the process, Chelsea basically lost to Arsenal, obviously, and then ended up drawing, I think against Villa last time I checked. So football is a funny business, isn't it? Like, suddenly you've gone from, being relegation candidates to actually, if Chelsea were to lose against City and you were to win against West Brom on the weekend, 3 points behind Chelsea. So I say all this because what I guess I want to know from you, mate, is like, do you think Arsenal are back? Are they actually back?
It could be a pivotal moment in the season. Obviously, we had the second worst form in the league up until we played Chelsea. And I think Arsenal fans, when they saw the Carabao Cup, they saw Martinelli in the first half. I think it was 1-1 by that time. It looked as if we were, you could see the impression that Martinelli was giving off, like that his energy is relentless. He adds that running in behind, pressing constantly. And so when we saw him, we were like, okay, like we've got a little bit of faith back, even if we're losing. At least we're seeing some of the youngsters. And then Arteta finally gambles and plays Smith Rowe instead of Willian, but maybe only because Willian was ill, quote unquote. And then Pablo Mari comes in, who people forget is, a bit of a veteran, really. He won how many league cups and league titles with Flamenco. And he steps in and he looks so comfortable. And so suddenly there's this new lease of life because some of the youngsters, and mostly people will call him for Arteta's head because he's playing these same Willians and Xhakas and et cetera, et cetera. and they're not doing anything. They're not performing. And Oba, I guess he was injured. That's what they're. But in a weird way, these injuries / illnesses have helped us in a way, because I don't know if Arteta would have changed so many people. You see Smith Rowe coming in, and he's playing that centre attack in mid row, and he looks comfortable. So that's what Wilson said. Martinelli was the glimmer of hope. Exactly.
Martinelli was a glimmer of hope. Infectious energy is what it is, and I think I don't think anyone would disagree with that. To be honest.
Oh, that's my friend, by the way.
Oh, shout out to you, Wilson. Thank you for joining in live, man. So hopefully get you on the show tomorrow. Next week. And give me a subscribe, by the way. I'd appreciate that. Really.
You're not allowed to say that on. For some reason, are you allowed to say subscribe?
Yeah, of course. Everyone says that all the
time. Okay, cool. Just go on. When you're commenting it, I don't know. YouTube seems to be a bit funny if you comment subscribe or something like that.
Yeah, if you put in the comments, you can. But obviously, on the live, of course, you can. Everyone does that. Okay. Truth, like I say in my every intro.
Okay.
Yeah, for those still watching, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click that like button to this video and subscribe. It generally goes a long way. One of the things that I noticed, and here's a question actually for you, Josh. Okay, because obviously the main subject matter is actually Arsenal back. Can we see something from this Arsenal side if they continue to play? Thanks, Wilson, man. Thanks, Wilson. Appreciate it. Let your mates know as well. Appreciate it. We're trying to get to I think a few subscribers away from 2,700. So make sure you subscribe. It's clear what you said, that bringing in the youth has made a big difference in the energy and the tempo, etc. And my concern with Arteta is because Arteta clearly didn't trust the youth and went with experience. He went with, the Williams. He went with, the Aubameyangs and so on, and they didn't really deliver. Are you concerned that when all is said and done, when David Luiz, when Willian, when all these players are back fit, that he will go back to playing the experienced players, and you get essentially the same old Arsenal back?
It'd be interesting because obviously we have form now, so form is temporary. We all know, and if it's on him, because at the end of the day, he might have not gotten all the players he wanted, but he still selected the teams. And you've seen some of how some of them have played in the Europa League, some of the youngsters. And, they're having success there. I know the level of opponent is different, but, if I said this last week, I think, about Einstein, when he said, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. And so at the end of the day, he's changed it up. So fair play to him. You have to give him credit for that. In the Brighton game, I think Martinelli was going to come off anyway, but fair play for him bringing on Lacazette, because I think Lacazette had a slight injury. That's why he didn't start. Fair play for him bringing on Lacazette and maybe not a Nketiah or something. He had faith in Lacazette, who's been our top scorer. And Arsenal fans have to be honest, Lacazette's been our best striker this season. Aubameyang has not been great at all this season. And so, going forward, and fair play to Bellerin as well, in my opinion. Bellerin actually had a really good game against Brighton, because Bellerin's also one of those critics. I'm still on the fence about Xhaka, because I still think as soon as Partey comes back, Xhaka's out of that team. But, Bellerin has actually stepped up the past 2 games. So fair play to him, if I'm honest. But yeah.
Just reading Wilson's comments, I think that we can blame Arteta for what he knows and what he cannot, and we cannot blame him for what he doesn't. For example, Willian has proven record in the Premier League and has been playing at the highest level. I think, in my opinion, I'm an inside out. I think that is true, but I also think that there is such a thing as in-game management, and I say something to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well, where if it's clearly obvious that a player, he does this with Scott McTominay to a certain extent. when he's having a very bad game and he'll just play the guy for like 90 minutes. And it's not like that player has a track record of coming clutch in like the latter stages. And we're going to get to a United player that comes clutch in latter stages in a minute. Later in the status segment. But my issue with seeing Arsenal this season is that there are many games where he played Willian for 90 minutes and he'd do absolutely nothing. And you're like, why don't you bring on someone else to change things? If anything, he might have been Arsenal's worst player, so why don't you change it? Why don't you make something? That's my thing with that point. Whereas the youngsters are unproven, so if he comes down to this, we do exactly what Arteta done. I don't think Martinelli was unproven, although he did come back from injury. And as far as Emile Smith-Rowe was, again, they seem to show bits in the Europa League. So I think the big issue that I saw from Arsenal fans was you seeing these young players perform in the Europa League, and I admit it's not at that level, but they were performing bits. So why not take the risk? Because it's clearly obvious that your first team for successive games have been total trash, at least is the point. So obviously,
I think literally the difference is having a creative midfielder, because Smith-Rowe, he's been Ian Wright knows. I mean, he's 23. Smith-Rowe isn't that young. And so he's been playing for a while, and I think people like Ian Wright have known this guy's been good. Ian Wright was friends with his dad. And people like this Sanobi are good. Like, you'd rather, at the end of the day, as an Arsenal fan, you'd rather see a homegrown talent play. If Willian's been that bad, you'd play the young player, and at least the young player is going to give you energy, Even if he's only just a little bit better than Willian, at least he's going to give you energy. And putting him in that number 10 has just fixed a lot of our problems, to be honest, our creative problems, because he's and he works hard too. I've seen him tracking back, protecting the middle and each flank. I've seen him working hard, and because people like Xhaka, Ceballos, and Elneny don't really play that cut and pass forward, it's great having Smith-Rowe there. That's what we've been missing.
Shout out to Rich Sports. Hi, Rich. Thank you for joining the show. Please get your questions in if you like. And also, for those who are watching, please head over to Rich Sports channel and give him a subscribe as well. It goes a long way. He's been a great support of this channel, and we'd like to support you. So head over and subscribe to his channel. I'm just going to quickly just show the table right now. I'll just screen share this because I think this is quite obviously now. We're going to talk about Manchester United in a little bit, but let's just scroll all the way down here to where Arsenal, unfortunately, are. Well, they're 13th. They started, last time they were, in 15th. And generally, it was a question of, are these guys going to lose back-to-back games against Brighton and Chelsea? Because you could see potentially, if he'd picked those former players, that he might have. They didn't, and Arsenal have 20 points. They are now effectively 9 points from the relegation zone. They're not getting relegated. That's not going to happen. Even though they played an extra game over Fulham, it's not going to happen. Let's be real. What I think is interesting, however, in a brief conversation about it, is if we scroll up here, if there's actually not a lot of points between 13th and 5th. If you think of, let me go back. If you think about it, there's really not. There's actually 5th place is here and 13th is here, and there's only 6 points. 6 points is not a lot. And as we saw with the Arsenal team, 2 wins and suddenly Arsenal in 6th position. And in the case of Chelsea, 2 losses or a loss, and suddenly Arsenal, who were fodder, are not that far behind.
It's so funny. Some Arsenal fan was saying Chelsea fans and Spurs fans banded us all season saying we're in a relegation battle, only for us to only be 6 points behind them.
Yeah.
And we just like that. Spurs went from being in a title race.
Yeah.
Almost getting caught up by us. Oh my days, Chelsea.
It's absolutely true. I mean, okay, to be fair to Spurs, they do have a game in hand, so they could win that, and they'd be 9 points, which is still a fair bit. But certainly Chelsea, having played the same amount of games, and I don't know what's going to happen with the Manchester City game on the weekend. But if they played City and lost the game, they'd only be 3 points behind. You know what I mean? Rich says, being a manager right now is the hardest thing. It is true. Rich Sports, I don't think they're back, but we can probably stop joking about relegation. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Rasmus, thank you very much for joining. As usual, really appreciate you listening in. Get your questions in if you have anything for me or my bro Josh, the Arsenal fan. Yeah, I mean, I just think football is just a funny game. You know what I mean? And to be honest, if you look at Arsenal's fixtures, and I'll just click on this on Arsenal right now in terms of the games they have, assuming they continue to play the youth and build momentum. You have, I think you have West Brom away, which might be challenging. It's Big Sam defensive block. Who knows? Then Crystal Palace at home, Newcastle at home. Southampton away and United. Southampton away and Manchester United might be tough. But up until then, you've got 3 games, that you could say are winnable games. Is that fair to say? Josh? Oh, you've been...
Absolutely. Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to... No manager goes into... I mean... apart from some, managers, maybe Mourinho's and some of the lower clubs, and say, we can get a draw from this game. Most managers should be saying, we have the capacity to win. And there's probably going to be a little bit of a break now with everything that's happening. I presume the league's going to take a 2-week break because of how many matches have been postponed.
Cases, yeah, I suspect that's going to happen.
And so, I mean, 2 weeks is a weird. I don't know what 2 weeks is going to do exactly, but anyway, but yeah. And so, when you come back, players are well rested. Man United have pretty much been fielding the same team and so many others. Man United did. Leeds have been playing the same players. Arsenal, Liverpool, etc., etc. So you have this 2-week break now. Arsenal have Party coming back in mid-January, and so suddenly you've got a win streak and you've got these fresh players now, and you kind of think, why not? West Brom just got absolutely banded by Leeds, and rightly so, because they sacked their manager only to. Anyway, that's a different topic. But Newcastle, we always beat Newcastle. Crystal Palace aren't really having the best form right now. Yes, I'm finally happy. Yes, Casey, and so it's I think it's best to just go in the. If you're playing well, it's different, because it seems when we play well, we actually perform. Like there's no like can you think of it? When I've watched Man United, I can't think of many games where you've been really, really good and lost. I can think of games where you've been poor and still won, because you have people like Bruno. But at the end of the day,
the only game I might be at a stretch PSG.
Yeah, maybe
PSG at Old Trafford. If Martial and Vardy put away our chances in that game
in the Prem, but yeah, and so that's the pattern I see with Arsenal at the minute, because regardless of what Arteta is saying, we've not been playing well, and crossing inshallah with Willian is just not working.
Well, now that's Chelsea's tactic. That's Lampard's tactic now. So crossing inshallah, cross to someone who can actually head the ball. But anyway, go on.
They better not get rid of Giroud in January then, because that's their only option.
Well, we'll see what happens about that. I mean, Rich has a question here I put up here, and Wilson Zaja, he says 8th max. He says, where do Arsenal fans think they can finish the season? Now, bearing in mind, as I said, I mean, for all the banter we said that we said, there's only 6 points between 13th and 5th. You know what I mean? It's not like, and I say this when we're going to talk about United's title and stuff like that. It's still a tight league. They're still not that many. It's not like Liverpool, any other teams like 11 or 10 points clear and you have to make that up. 6 points is 2 games. And this weekend and then early next week, you're going to play 2 games. So all it takes is 2 losses from Chelsea, for example, over that period, and 2 wins from Arsenal. And suddenly Arsenal might be on the level point from Chelsea. So it's very, very, from what I've seen this league is very, very tight. Still, anyone from even from 14th, 15th even to 5th right now could get a European space, depending on form, depending on injuries, etc. So bearing that in mind, like, what position do you think, Josh, that Arsenal could finish this season?
I would say between 6 and 7, if I'm being realistic.
So you don't think that Arsenal will be able to get into the top 4 at this rate?
You can't really, because even if we're winning games, we still have a Liverpool to play and a City and a United. Well, maybe not United, but a Spurs, and you get me. So we still have those teams to play, and I'm confident that some of the teams above us will drop points. Like Southampton haven't won a game in 4. I think we'll get above people like West Ham and Southampton. But what about if other teams are picking up steam? What happens if Wolves go and sign Diego Costa in January? You just never know. Like, and for me, I'm not really that. But I've kind of written off this season already. I'm just more. I'm seeing this season who should be here next season. You get me? So. Xhaka is.
So basically, Arsenal going to win enough FA Cup this season, is what you're saying.
I mean, honestly, in the FA Cup, I know he's going to take it seriously, but I feel like he should just play the youngsters.
Okay.
I think I know the Europa League. There's some tough sides in there. AC Milan's, etc. However,
you would prioritize the Europa League? Go all into that.
Because what's the FA Cup going to do? Like. You won the FA Cup last season and finished 7th, and you got knocked out of the Europa League. So 8th, sorry. So what was the? Okay, you have a trophy added to your list of achievements, but at the end of the day, it hasn't meant anything. So, Aubameyang, I think he kind of let us down in last year. If we had someone like I think Martinelli was he even playing that? I don't think Arteta played him against Olympiacos. But anyway,
going to quickly. League is tight, but Man City will climb up. I'm sure. We'll see. I would expect them to, but I still think that they just don't seem to be scoring a lot of goals, and Aguero doesn't look particularly fit. So I expect City to climb up, but I also expect them, like Liverpool, to draw a few games. Maybe against teams that you wouldn't necessarily expect. If it's one thing, and before we switch topics to talk about United, that I think is different from United as opposed to currently in current form than City and Liverpool, it's that we seem to be able to score more goals. United seems to generally be able to score 2 goals at least a game. Whereas with Liverpool and City, the last couple of games when it's only been like 1. Maybe maximum 2. Not really heard of 3, if you know what I mean. Mo says 6 points, but 5 teams are on 26, and they all have to lose twice. Mid-table anonymity is mental. And I agree with that. I just think that as soon as and for those watching, if you haven't liked the video, like it, and share. It goes a long way. I do agree with that. I just think that we're still in quite a busy period. So as soon as we get out of the busy period of Christmas, of January, etc., then okay, that's different. But I think right now, it's still a process where a few injuries here, a few some team hits a run of poor form, and suddenly you find that you're not really where you are on the table. Like I said, case in point is Chelsea. Case in point is Spurs. And not completely out of it. There's barely any points between them and 4th, but it's possible. G watching
Let's
you.
be honest with Chelsea.
Sorry, go on, Josh.
Chelsea only really beat Brighton.
Mm.
I think they beat Newcastle.
Mm.
I think they beat Leeds, but just about. You know, it's not as if they're beating any really, and they drew to West Brom and they drew to Southampton.
Yeah,
lost to Arsenal. You just like Chelsea aren't. Chelsea might be in trouble. I know they're in poor form right now, but their wins this season haven't been top.
I don't think. I mean, if I look, and I know this isn't a Chelsea podcast, but if my friend Abdullahi was here, when I look at the table, I'm like, where did Chelsea's wins actually come from? Like, where did? Because if you look at like everyone in the top, like just above like Arsenal, if you look at like, so this is Arsenal and everyone above here, the only win I see is West Ham, and to be honest, if West Ham were clinical, they could have lost that game. Did they beat Leeds?
They beat Leeds. They beat
Leeds. Okay, so this is 2 here.
They beat
Wolves, drew with Southampton, lost to City, or drew City. I think they lost to City or drew. I can't remember. Drew with Spurs, drew with Villa, lost to Everton. I don't think they played Leicester yet. Drew with United and lost to Liverpool.
So they beat bums.
So basically, all their wins have come from, aside from West Ham and Leeds, all the other wins for 26 points have come from basically these teams here:
Sheffield, Fulham, Brighton, and Burnley, and Newcastle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Let's quickly move on because we're in. We've got a few more topics. Rich quickly says though, are Arsenal top 6 side? Do we need to start talking about a top 8?
Probably, yeah. The amount of good teams there are now, Rich. Because I mean, Villa,
Everton are replacing Arsenal.
I don't know about that.
But Wilson, Everton ain't replacing anyone. Well,
thank you.
Well, right now their league position says otherwise. Right now,
what would happen if Calvert-Lewin got injured? They haven't really had any. I know Rodriguez, but they're still winning without Rodriguez.
Did Everton finish above you last season as well?
No,
because you finished 8th.
Yeah, Everton finished like 10th or 11th or something.
Did they? So who finished? Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Wolves 7th. Sheffield was somewhere.
Yeah. I think it's more appropriate to probably say that Leicester, if they're going to talk about replacement, you could say Leicester City are replacing Arsenal. There's an argument for that, I would say, because one of the teams, for example, has a recent Premier League trophy, and so far, anyway, in the last 2 seasons, they've been finished above Arsenal Football Club. So if you want to make an argument for a team and they've got some evidence to back it up, you could make an argument for Leicester City.
Yeah.
Just silence. Right, let's quickly move on. I think just in the comments, FA Cup doesn't even mean I'll keep you manager because the pressure will be the same whether we have the FA Cup or not. Yes, I'm watching the Newcastle-Liverpool game. I am. Let's have the question: are United better than? What's that?
Who?
I don't know what that says. I literally don't know what that says. You're gonna have to repeat that again, KSI. Yeah, and I think this is the answer to the Chelsea thing. Let's quickly move on, actually, because I think this is an important question. So while obviously Arsenal have turned their form around, at least in the last 2 games or so, United also. And you know, I watched that game yesterday through gritted teeth. It was painful. Wolves basically came to get a draw. Okay, I'm not going to have it any other way otherwise. Wolves didn't come to Old Trafford to win, to play. They played the back 3. They wanted to be tight, compact, and it almost worked. But for Marcus Rashford. You know, Marcus Rashford, who I was told by Chelsea fans was so inferior and crap compared to Timo Werner. And look how that's happened. Marcus Rashford obviously got the clear goal and shown in the league United, with the same amount of games played, are 2 points behind Liverpool with 15 games played. Now, we haven't obviously played half of the season. That'll be in 4 games' time, so it's 19. I'll ask you this first, Josh, before I get the picture up. Do you think United are genuine title challengers? I don't mean pretend. I don't mean, figurative or speculative. I mean, do you think, based on what you've seen by United this season, that we are genuine title contenders?
I did up until recently, the Leicester game and the Wolves game, because Wolves had some chances even though they were defensive, and the Leicester game. Leicester played well against you guys, to be honest. You guys played well, but Leicester played well against you. It doesn't seem like you really have a plan B. Because sometimes you do have to just shut up shop and play a bit. I saw Bruno dribbling in his own third.
That wasn't
I was
good.
like, what are you doing? Like, sometimes, and to be honest, he's been playing every game too. Like, obviously he's your best player. And I know you don't really see Mane or Salah missing a game. I understand that, but as a midfielder, he's playing every game, and that's going to be tough on him. So, you've got Van de Beek there on the bench. You can put him in and play Pogba instead of a Bruno. Give him some rest. But you've got 2 weeks now, so maybe that'll be best for your team. But I see you've been linked with Max Aarons too.
Yeah.
Because Wan-Bissaka, like, he can get caught out. I've noticed he's the best one-on-one defender in the Premier League, but his positional sense is not there.
No, it's getting it's getting worse in my opinion, because several times where you're like, why are you not on the back post? Like quite a few times, and especially against Leipzig in a few games, I was just kind of like, why are you not on the back post, Wan-Bissaka? And
I think his baby mother might have put some juju. I don't know if you saw the whole thing.
Yeah,
she must have put some juju on him. Definitely.
Yeah, maybe. But it delayed the judge, because it happened when we played PSG, and he had a brilliant game on that game. So everyone's like, Wan-Bissaka, man.
Yeah, people don't know how juju works though. Juju works, it peaks, and then you have to go. Juju peaks.
Mo says we need to beat Liverpool, otherwise we're not challenging.
Yeah, pretty much. That's literally what it comes down to.
I would disagree with that based on what I see from Liverpool Football Club this season.
They're not losing though.
They're not losing, but they are drawing. In fact, they have the most draws out of the top 6.
Really?
Yeah, they've got 5 draws. Everyone else has maybe 2, 3. So they're either winning or losing. So, and those draws came to Brighton, came to West Brom, came to Fulham, teams that they would normally beat. And so when you look at it, that's 10 points that were just dropped from just draws. Okay, City, okay, fair enough. One was Everton, okay, fair enough. But the other 3, Brighton, Fulham, West Brom, that's 6 points. So my issue with Liverpool, why I don't think 100% if we don't win, as long as we don't lose, is because I think that this Liverpool team will continue to draw games. So I'm not saying they're going to lose games, but I do think, and this happened, I think, in the season when it was
not when they won, but the season before. Because City lost about 4 or 5 games.
They lost more games.
Liverpool drew like 11.
Exactly. City lost more games, but Liverpool drew games. And my thing of going into this is that I'm seeing United side, and this is not the only optimism where we're still winning more games than we're losing. We're not drawing that many.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're scoring goals. I'm seeing the Liverpool side that are drawing, and there's no reason why they couldn't have put 4 past West Brom.
Oh, absolutely.
but they didn't, and then they equalised. Now the Newcastle game today is going to be interesting. I still expect Liverpool to win because I think Steve Bruce is abroad.
I think another thing is, Wolves sat back against United yesterday, but like you said, Man United still won. And I feel like Liverpool don't have a Bruno. Bruno will keep. Did you see the pass Bruno did for Rashford?
Yeah.
And when he scored his goal, okay, it's a deflection, but he still played that pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Liverpool, they have good pass in their team, but they don't have a Bruno. But what I will say is Thiago's coming back, and then such and such is coming back, and Jota's coming back. So they're going to become stronger in the next month or so. And Thiago's on the bench today, actually. And so that's the only. I think because you've kind of changed my opinion now. I'm thinking United are definitely title challengers. However, Liverpool are going to become stronger, and they might even strengthen in January. Because I mean, I've heard someone wanted Origi. Was it Sheffield or someone? So they might even pick up a striker in January, or who?
Maybe Costa.
No, I don't think Klopp would have him. He's not the kind of player. But
Liverpool man.
Costa was born has Brazilian nationality, So he knows Portuguese, so he'll go to Wolves.
Yeah, probably will. Won't he? He'll probably go to Wolves, be a thug there, and just sort of get his book done. So
I want to see him back in the Prem though. I don't think he's washed up just yet.
Ruffle up some fans, it'll be great, But I mean, obviously for me, if I think beating Liverpool, if we were to beat Liverpool at Anfield, that is definitely a statement. I just think that I don't necessarily think 100% that if we draw there, as long as we don't lose, that means that United are out of it. Just because for the sole reason that I think that Liverpool, I just can't see Liverpool from now to the end of the season winning every single game. I don't think that's going to happen. From now to the end of the season, are Liverpool going to win every single game? No, I do not. I think they will. I'm not sure which teams will beat them. Although, frankly, I feel frankly that Fulham almost did. I still think that Salah penalty was quite dodgy, to be honest. Had they not got that, they won't see. And these are the things that I keep on saying, where like when people say, "Oh, United," or deflection, etc. I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Liverpool got that dodgy penalty for Fulham.
Didn't they get 2 pens against Leeds?
And exactly, they got 2 penalties against Leeds. So you seem like why is it that like when you look at the United, it's like, oh, they were lucky to get that thing, but with Liverpool, it's like no one seems to look at. My issue with a lot of Liverpool is that like no one seems to look at some of Liverpool's wins are, had they not got this decision, you never know what would have happened. Had they not got 2 penalties, soft penalty, well, okay, one of them was soft against Leeds. Had they not got the penalty against Fulham, had they not, they wouldn't have won. So why is you kind of see what I'm saying, So do you think United need more personnel? Yes. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted before I move on. So I want to quickly talk about Aubameyang and then Marcus Rashford. Is that United aren't going to challenge, and this is my counter argument to what I said, if we don't strengthen in January. It's clear that when Bruno Fernandes was signed in January, he made a massive difference. A massive difference. To the point that we've only lost 3 Premier League games since he's arrived. 3 all year. And that was this season. And I think one of the games he wasn't playing. So for me, if we're going to even think about challenging Liverpool, we need to sign, ideally, a pacey CDM, which might be this Casido guy, although he's young. But more importantly, a world-class centre-back, if that's available. A pacey world-class centre-back. For me, those are the most important signings that we need to make. Because Cavani is a good enough number 9, in my opinion. I think his position is good, but we need that centre-back. And unfortunately, as much as I like Eric Bailly and Twansibi, I don't think that they can stay fit enough for the rest of the season. They're going to get injured. And then Lindelof comes in, and then we get problems again. So that's my thought. Liverpool won't win every game, but neither will any of us though. That is true. But like I said, it's winning versus drawing. That for me is the distinction. Is like Liverpool are not going to lose many games, but how many games are they going to draw? And that for me is the small thing. Because if United or City or other teams can win more games compared to when they draw, yeah, they might lose more games to Liverpool. But if they're winning more than they are drawing, then you get yourself into a title race, So I think this is one to park on the bus. And like I said, get your questions in, guys. We're still live for a bit. I want to move on to this topic actually, and I think I want to see what Josh has to say about this, because and what Arsenal fans have to say about this, and it's this: is Aubameyang finished? Is Aubameyang finished? He signed the thing. He signed the thing. And since he signed the thing,
how many goals has Martial got in the Prem this year?
We're talking
without penalties.
We're talking specifically about Aubameyang here. Martial is not on 300k a week at this moment in time. Signing for
but Martial is anyway.
We want to keep the. We'll talk about a Manchester United player in a second. Sorry, I shared the wrong thing.
This is Aubameyang's. A player of Aubameyang's quality, some Lewandowski has literally been hugging the golden boot for himself for the past how many seasons. Aubameyang was the only player to share the golden boot with Lewandowski. And Lewandowski should have won Ballon d'Or, and he won the UEFA Men's Player of the Year award. Aubameyang has been consistent for the past 5-6 seasons. And I was talking to my dad about it, and we just feel like there's something not right in his life right now. Like whether it's physically, whether he's looking a bit slimmer, ill or something, maybe he had COVID, and I don't know if it's a mental thing, but I don't mind if he has a bit of bench time.
Wilson says yes, he's done out here. He's ran the place honestly.
No.
Where me and Josh disagree. So some Arsenal fans seem to say otherwise. Aubameyang's to learn. This poacher he wants to be is not good enough for Arsenal, and I can see he's lost all sorts of interest.
Yeah, I kind of understand that, but a person of his quality is allowed one bad run of games. He hasn't been good this season. Give him some bench time. Lacazette's been scoring goals. The pressure's off him now, right? You've got Martinelli there, Smith Rowe, Saka, and Lacazette as your front four now. Aubameyang can come off the bench. Give Bellerin the captaincy.
This is your captain.
What?
But this is your club captain.
Yeah, but Bellerin was captain when he didn't play when he was injured, and we won that game.
Okay, but obviously, when Aubameyang's not injured, he's got to play because he's the captain, surely.
No. Lacazette was only not playing because he had an injury, and then he came off the bench and scored.
Okay.
So I don't think Aubameyang's going to be playing next game.
So you think that? Wait. So why did Lacazette play?
He had a slight injury, but he was on the bench, and then he came on because we needed a goal.
Do you think that? So you feel? So let me put it this way. So you think that Arteta has actually dropped Aubameyang
to the bench? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't. To be fair, he wasn't afraid to drop how many people, and he did. He's brought in a youngster. He has lost a yard of pace. I will agree with that, Mo Wada, because I saw Webster catch up to him. Like, who's Webster? I think Dunk even caught up to him.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like,
that was a bit strange.
I was like, Lewis Dunk caught up to Aubameyang. Like,
I was surprised at that.
Is this guy too much of Gunnar or something? I don't know what's going on.
But didn't you say at the start of this season that Arsenal had depth? Look at all these players coming in now. Martinelli's back. Such and such is back. Such and such is back. Aubameyang can drop to the bench now, even though he's been our best player. Saka's overtaken him as our best player. Let's be honest.
Better in a different league, as in should he go back to the Bundesliga?
Back to Dortmund or something, or
Dortmund.
I can imagine it. I can imagine him at
Syria.
I can imagine him at. Yeah. I can imagine him in League or something.
Dear. So, I mean, to be honest, I always said that like he would have actually been a good Barcelona signing. Because Barcelona don't have that type of player in their squad right now, and they need that sort of poaching number 9. But obviously, that ship has now sailed because of his new contract.
If Arsenal fans can say Xhaka is they can forgive Xhaka and stuff. I can forgive Aubameyang for he's been our best player for the how many seasons.
I don't think anyone doubts it. I think maybe
you don't go through a rush patch when you're 25. Come on, man. You go through it when you're old. Rough patch. Get out of here, Martial. You're talking about anyway.
That's what Kobe said. That's what Kobe says, man. That's what Kobe says. He has been a beast in general because the league incorporated his skill set. The difference between Laka and Aubameyang, Laka still does everything he can for the team, whereas Aubameyang isn't willing to. That's interesting. So you think?
No. I don't think that's true. I just think some people know how to press and some people don't. That's it.
Okay,
that's literally it. Because
you would have learned that at Dortmund, surely.
I didn't
press.
Yeah, I mean he can press the goalkeeper. That's about it. But he's best from the wing, as you've seen at Arsenal. Lacazette is better at pressing, and he suits Arteta's system more. But you guys, to say Aubameyang's finished, come on, man. He kept us up from relegation the past 3 seasons.
Of course. But I mean, it was more. I think it was almost glaringly obvious against Brighton, where he had his chances and he just seemed off the colour. And then Lacazette comes on, and within 2 minutes, the ball's in the back of the net, kind of like. Right, that for me was when, and that's why I brought the question up, because it was stark. It was almost like, whoa, this is when I saw the lineup, I was like, okay, cool, this is going to be a team that's going to cause Brighton problems, strongest team, front three, etc. And they didn't really, to be honest. Brighton were quite comfortable at the back there. There were 1 or 2 chances, but just Aubameyang didn't really put away. And then Lacazette comes on, and then within less than 5 minutes, the ball's in the back of the net. So you're kind of like, well, I didn't expect that.
Sorry, guys, that's my dad. He has a
Liverpool ahead or something. Like,
no, I don't know why he's laughing like that.
Don't know what's
the game hasn't even started yet.
The game was like maybe I think there's a lineup out or something. Let me see.
Yeah, he's probably celebrating that Thiago's on the bench.
Maybe it's...
I might have to mute.
Actually, no. The lineup is like they've got like Alexander, Trent, Phillips, Fabinho, Robertson, Henderson, Milner, Curtis Jones, Salah, Firmino, Mane. So yeah, it's standard. It is standard. So long story short of it, presumably Aubameyang isn't finished. Is that the thing? It's still okay.
He definitely needs to go to the bench.
So you bench
Pepe.
You bench
Pepe. Look at Pepe.
But can you bench? Can you bench a player that's on 350k a week though?
There are some players on ridiculous wages who are on the bench. Some I don't want to bring the numbers up, but I will. There are some people on 100k plus a week who I don't think have even played this season. Let's be honest. Do you know what I mean? So, all right, he signed the thing,
and he's the captain.
Sign the bench, and then chill for a little bit. That's fine. Pepe's not played. He didn't start against Chelsea, and then he came on from the bench. He didn't come on at all against Brighton. I'd say I don't mind that. At least he's showing some balls now. I know it's took him long enough. He stopped being a beta male to Pep. It looks like. He's looking a bit more alpha now.
But obviously, he has to maintain the dressing room as well. They have to still want to play for him, which is the thing. But he can obviously so far so good potentially with maybe the younger players that respect him, etc. But whether with the older players or not remains to be seen, especially with the Özil situation. On to our kind of final topic. You got to respect this guy. You got to respect this guy. It's coming to the end of the year, and I think for a lot of us, we know it's been quite tough. It's been quite difficult with everything that's going around. And Marcus Rashford obviously has done quite a lot of good, especially regarding, free school meals for children, etc. in the UK, for those who aren't really aware. Big thing here, very, very big. And, it was important work, to be honest. It put him at odds with our government, but thankfully he led good policy change, and especially with what seems to be another impending crisis. I'll use that word. I think it was Marcus Rashford was actually within reason to actually do that because the things are closing now. He's obviously off-field achievements aside. One of the things that I've liked about Marcus Rashford this season, especially when he's got help, when Bruno's playing, when it clicks, is that there have been quite a few games where the dude has come clutch. When he's come clutch, and like I said earlier in the show, I'm getting Chelsea fans saying, we've got Werner, we've got Havertz, we've got this boom, let's go treble, title, etc. And now it's like. Now it's almost like a civil war where you've got Lampard in and like it was Ollie in, Ollie out. Now it's Lampard in, Lampard out. In the Chelsea fans, and it makes good watching. I go back to the game against Wolves yesterday, and you're like, he takes a shot, all hope is almost lost, and you get the goal, and that's what you need. That's what you need in your forwards. It's and that's why I always say I get frustrated watching Marcus Rashford play sometimes because of his decision making, because of his lack of finishing sometimes. But the reason why you play Marcus Rashford is that, like, when a game is tight, he can always deliver a moment just like that, if you know what I mean. So before I come to you, John, I'm going to read the comments. Like, I just want you to think about how good do you think Marcus Rashford is? Is he overrated? Is he overhyped? What's his level? Still, obviously, I think he's just turned 22 now, I think, and that's the one thing I want to highlight is that one of the things I noticed when people talk is that they don't seem to talk about him in terms of he's a kid, he's going into his prime. It's like he's already established Premier League footballer. He's 22. Whereas the other footballers that are the same age, it's like, well, they've got potential. Let's see what happens. People don't really talk about Marcus Rashford in terms of potential. They already see him as already established. And so they talk him as being bad or good or whatever. No one says, oh, dude, the dude's still maybe a good 4 or 5 years away from his prime. You know what I mean? No one says that. They already see him as an established Premier League footballer, as opposed to maybe, a Tammy or a Mason Mount or a Curtis Jones or a Martinelli or others that are like, oh, these are good youth prospects that could have potential. If you see what I mean. Let me before I come to get your opinion on, let me just quickly go into the comments. Williamson, Germany made Xhaka look like the player we thought we needed. French league made us think Pepper was the player we needed, etc., etc. But Newcastle are going to get turned over like a profit and a loss. I wouldn't be surprised. Kobe says, do you think United need a right back to challenge him? So I do. I think if you're honestly telling me what would a good chance window be, I would say bring in a right back. I would also say bring in a good centre back. If you've got a CDM, boom, we can challenge. But a centre back minimum, a right back to challenge. I mean, we technically have one. We've got Dallo. He's on loan to AC Milan, and Foster Mensah, and Brandon Williams. They could do the role there, but I don't think Ollie seems to rate them. So then send them out on loan. We have right backs, Dallo, Foster Mensah, and Brandon Williams, but Ollie doesn't seem to rate them. So you either play one of those guys or you send them out on loan to get more experience if you feel that there's still potential for them, and then just rely on Wan-Bissaka. But I think we need to sign one to challenge, and it looks like we've been linked with that guy from Norwich. What's his name again? Max Aarons, who actually was pretty good for Norwich last season. And yes, I would agree with that. I think it's gotten worse, if anything. And I'm sure he'll get better. It would be good to get an improvement. I hope he'll get better, but if anything, it looks like it's gotten worse, if I'm perfectly honest. I think he's a good player. Not convinced he's good enough. I don't see anything that makes him any better than Walcott at Arsenal. That's disrespectful.
Who?
Like Walcott at Arsenal. That's disrespectful, Wilson. That is disrespectful. Don't you dare compare Marcus Rashford 22 to Theo Walcott.
Yeah, that sounds like a violation.
Did Wilcott come clutch? Like let's come on.
That sounds like a violation.
Let's be real. He's on. If we're comparing, we're talking Rashford, and obviously you can't compare Rashford to Marseille because Marseille to Greenwood, for example. But you can't compare Marcus Rashford to Walcott. Come on. Let's be real here. Let's be real. He's got. It must be at least 50. I think 50 plus goals, something like that, and more. Like come on. Let's talk about it. So Josh, picks and strings before going to Rashford is still too inconsistent to be world class. I mean, this is what I guess I'm saying is that point of like, aside from Mbappe, who to be honest, in my opinion, is still under review because we're going by what Mbappe's done in the past. And based on what he's done this season and last, I've not seen anything really to shout about on Mbappe. We played PSG twice in the Champions League. And to be honest, Mbappe, I don't think Mbappe had a great game in either of those games. If it wasn't for Neymar, although we pocketed him in the first leg, we didn't pocket him in the second, and he causes problems. If PSG didn't have Neymar, I genuinely think they would have been in Europa League. So the only thing I would say, I'm not saying Marcus Rashford is world-class, but what I am saying is that I don't know many world-class 22-year-old players that are 22. I don't know many. You could put Mbappe there. You could maybe put Haaland there. And even then, in terms of what they've achieved, okay, Mbappe has achieved quite a bit. But again, recently now, it looks like he's dropped off. And Haaland, it's difficult to assess because he's in a flanking Dortmund side. Outside of that, I can't think of many other players that are that age that are in the world-class bracket. I mean, can you, Josh, and what are your thoughts on Marcus Rashford?
No, I already said, when he burst onto the scene, he was amazing. He was scoring against big teams. And people talk about he's not consistent, but him and Bruno, there was a statistic maybe about 4 or 5 games ago that Bruno and Rashford directly were involved in every single Man United goal. For 40 30 plus games or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So I don't understand where the inconsistency thing comes from. Maybe you could say that last season, but even then he had a good season. So I don't know. People don't respect him for some reason. I have no idea. Maybe because he's not French or something. He's not Mbappe, or he doesn't have a foreign name, so he can't. I am really confused. Because he's definitely not overrated. He's underrated, if anything. But yeah.
And so obviously coming from outside fan, how I know Wilson says, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's not even nah. It'd be the equivalent of me saying that Patrick Vieira is on the level of Marwan Fellaini. You just don't. There are just certain conversations that you just shrug your shoulders. And don't get me wrong. What I will say is that he could have a bad injury or something could happen, and he could end up like a Theo Walcott and just never really sort of take off. But it's obvious that when Marcus Rashford is not playing, we miss him. Right now, when Marcus Rashford, Bruno, and Marshall, etc., when these players aren't playing, we miss their impact. And so when you're so reliant on a player to perform and do, that shows you the importance of that player, if that makes any sense. So I think that's the last question before we sort of round things up. So past the hour mark, how do you see, what do you see as the ceiling? Okay, because I know a lot of people say he's not going to be.
He has to win something.
But what is his ceiling? What would, if you're talking player comparison, what could Marcus Rashford's ceiling be?
He has to win something. That's it. And I'm not talking about an FA Cup.
So if he wins the Premier League,
then he's probably our greatest young player at the minute. He has to be up there because people are rating Sancho. Sancho hasn't done it. Sancho hasn't scored in like 12 games or something, they're saying. And Rashford's banging him in every week.
Yeah.
People are rating Sancho because he plays in the Bundesliga and he plays for Dortmund. Like what? I generally don't understand it. And you know, Sancho sits on the bench for Rashford. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I make this a point. I do, you know, a part of me is like, as much as I would have liked Sancho in the summer, a part of me does think, what did we actually miss? Maybe he's unhappy there, I don't know, but still, for a professional player, you still expect them to sort of at least try and perform consistently, you know. And the reality is that his form was, you know, there's no way that if United weren't going to pay 120 million in the summer, that they're going to pay 120 million now. And Dortmund, if anything, probably are kind of like, crap, we should have cashed in earlier. Because, you know, Madrid, Barca, no team is going to pay the amount of money that Dortmund wants for Sancho now.
Oh, no.
His value is his peak value was that big season. Now it's bad, it's crap, so his value has gone down. And if he continues this run of form, it will go down even further. So that when his contract expires, Dortmund will get a lot less than they would have got originally. A few questions here. Well, common statements. I think Rashford's biggest problem is simply his mindset. He's got the tools, but it's the same issue with other English players. Mindset in what sense? In the sense of like that he's selfish? I mean, according to BT, Rashford becomes the third youngest Manchester United player to reach 50 Premier League goals. The others were Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo by the time they reached 22, 23. And it took him less days. It took it. Oh wait, no, that's 20 years. Yeah. So he's by 22 basically when he's reached 50 goals, which only Rooney and Ronaldo were able to achieve. But fair enough. They need to break this duck. Josh goes to Josh. What's your thoughts on Arsenal going for Diego Costa?
They're not. Kobe. Yeah, it was fake news. I looked it up. It was fake news.
Fake news.
But I mean, it would be typical, wouldn't it? It would be typical for us to go for someone like that. But you know, I'm hoping that our duck of signing these washed-up Brazilians is over, because I know Eddie seems to be close with Willian and David Luiz's agents. So.
Yeah, of course. Pixel String says Sancho comes in, Martial gets benched. I don't get how that works, because what you're saying is that you're basically going to have to put Rashford as a number 9.
No.
Sancho is a right winger, so that means you'd have to put. What you're doing, you if you bring in Sancho, then Martial is dropped and Rashford. So you put Sancho on the right, Rashford either comes in the middle or then goes to the left, and then maybe put Cavani up top.
Yeah, you guys play better with Martial anyway.
Yeah, maybe that might work, but to be honest, I feel Martial is a lot better coming in from the left than Rashford is on the left. You know, that's my opinion. So you've got to have Martial in there somewhere, in my opinion. So you either play Martial as a number 9, Rashford left, Sancho right, and then Greenwood and Cavani get dropped, or you play Cavani, Martial, Rashford on the left, and then Sancho comes in. Or you actually put Rashford on the right, because, like I said, Sancho just it doesn't look like that great. It was only 120 because of the current situation with COVID. No, I don't think so. I think it was 120 million because that was the Dortmund asking price. Most clubs that were in desperate financial situations wanted to sell quickly and were reasonable. But the problem was that a lot of clubs didn't have the funds, and a lot of clubs wanted to. 120 was the original asking price from Dortmund. But we'll see.
Right.
Don't think we should sign Sancho. I'd rather get Demontre and Maxim for half the price. That's a fair enough, Kobe. We still need a right winger. I take Sancho for 80 million. Would I take Sancho?
Have you not seen? You know, I understand League One tax and stuff like that. But there's also a Bundesliga tax. Look at Werner and Havertz. Just saying.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
In my opinion, I've seen some decent guys in the French league who would be half the price of Pepe. His counterpart on the other wing, Bamba, he got Player of the Month the other season. He wouldn't be costed. He'd cost less than 40 mil. Do you know what I mean? So, and I mean Player of the Month in the whole league on, not just So
no, I agree. And to be honest,
look at Rafinha for Leeds. How much did they buy him for?
I agree. There are options. I mean, we're even signing Ahmad Traore. You know, I know he's a youngster, but he could do a job. You know, so but you know, I think that you know we need to start getting out of this mindset. We need to spend 80 to 100 million on getting the best. For me, my rule is you only spend that amount on a player if they've shown consistent. If you're very desperate, or they've shown consistently that they are world class. One good season for me is and some little to show for it, frankly, is not good enough for me to show that they could be, but to spend 80 million, that's the investment. And we did that with Harry Maguire. And look what's happened, though. I don't think Harry Maguire is totally awful.
He's not as bad as people make out.
Are you saying if Rashford wants to impose himself as the striker, number one striker at United, he couldn't? What's stopping him, if not mentality? He's got the drive, passion, humility. So what's missing? I think what's missing is that he's stated several times that that's not his preferred position. He said in several interviews that his preferred position is actually out left. So that's, for me, what's holding him back, is that he's quite content to give the number 9 to Martial, who does want to be the number 9, but that his preferred position is actually out left coming inside.
I mean, look at Ronaldo. You know, he played out wide most of his career, left wing, but he was like an inside forward. So
we dodged a massive bullet with Werner.
Everybody did, apart from Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly.
But the difference is with Chelsea, they'll go and spend another 100 million in January if they need to.
Yeah, they'll spend another something on a keeper, etc. No, exactly. So final thoughts going into as we just run up, going into the next game. Obviously, Arsenal face West Brom. And United face Villa. Predictions. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Arsenal get the dub? Do you think United get the dub, Josh?
You're playing Villa.
We're playing Villa. Yeah, Villa at home.
I think you draw.
West Brom away. Really?
I think you draw.
Okay.
Villa are unbeaten since Leeds, I believe.
Okay.
And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
7 games.
I think we're unbeaten since we played you guys.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't see anybody winning that much. But if that makes sense, it's an unbeaten match. So I think it'll stay unbeaten, and
just like we ended Southampton's unbeaten run, and West Ham matter actually.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I'm going with 1-1, and then for the Arsenal game, I'm gonna go 2-0.
And Kobe,
pretty close, Kobe. Yeah, pretty close.
I'll agree with those results. I think that we'll score 2. I think that unlike. I know Villa are good defensively, but Villa will give us, I think, a lot more space than Wolves did. You know, United will play well if we have space to play with. The question with United, and we'll score goals if we have space to play with. The question is, can we actually defend? That's the issue. And I think that so long as Eric Bailly, Luke Shaw is there, or Wan-Bissaka is still increasingly suspect, we have a good chance. As long as, like I said, there's space to play with. And like I said, I think that 2-0, I'm probably going to go 1-0. Because I think Big Sam will create a very, very low block.
Yeah. If we get the early goal, it would be nice.
Yeah. It'll be a low block, and Arsenal don't play like Leeds, where no matter what, even though you have the kids, Leeds still play with a lot more pressing and 5 in the box, etc. So I wasn't surprised when they basically put 5 past West Brom, because as soon as they got the first goal, they were just going to continue playing that way, and West Brom couldn't cope with them. Whereas Arsenal don't play that way, so I think it'll be a tougher than Leeds. Maybe Leeds had it, so I think I will go with 1-0. But I don't know what your thoughts are on, Josh.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with mine. I think we need.
Villa do have names back. Okay, that's a fair point. Yeah,
we need to shut that fool Sam Allardyce up for talking about how we're in a relegation battle and things like that, and blah blah blah. So yeah, we need to shut him up.
And Pix in the String says, "Do you think Aubameyang?" Well, you kind of addressed that, didn't you?
I addressed that. Yeah, I said he needs some bench time, but obviously he needs to come off the bench. He can switch with Martinelli. That's what I think, because Martinelli brings a lot more at the minute. He was unlucky not to score in both games, actually.
Fair enough. Right, guys, thanks so much again. We've got quite a few people watching. Really appreciate it. You guys keeping it interactive and involved. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the Red Gunners podcast, which we try and do every so week. It's a joint United and Arsenal podcast. We're going to hopefully try and in my community update, which is coming soon, I'm going to try and get more feedback from you guys as to how you want the channel going forward. With some of these podcasts, we're going to hopefully try and do going forward is either on the show or later some sort of Q&A session. So whether it's via Twitter or on here, like just get in like your specific questions, anything related to football, maybe even outside of football, but and get them in, and we'll get those questions before we go live, so we can prepare for them and go live in them. So that's something that we're thinking about doing as well, going forward. But I said I'll get you guys updated, and we'll see what happens. Last question looks like from Kobe, which is, who should we start, Cavani or Greenwood? They play different positions, so I would say, well, although Greenwood is a striker, but I'd say Cavani. Cavani for his movement.
Martinelli is clear of Greenwood, by the way, Kobe. But anyway.
Let's not go there. We might have a part 2, because there was a versus that we did with Martinelli versus Green, which is on the channel if you want to have a look at it. It's on our Red Devil Battles playlist. Become a member, by the way. Become a member if you haven't already. Become a member.
All right.
But yeah, guys, remember, if you're new to the channel, remember to like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter and X. Thank you guys for watching. Smash that like, subscribe if you haven't. Have a nice day, everyone, and cheers.
All right.
Ooh.